Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Hayley. Hayley is the co founder of ReVibe. Hayley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, give us a brief background about yourself before ReVibe, how you got pulled into the startup world, and what is it all about?
Absolutely. So being a founder is a little bit in my DNA. My father is a technology entrepreneur working on selling semiconductors, computer chips, et cetera, to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. So from a very young age, I became financially literate and very excited about both venture and startups and technology and innovation broadly. So I actually got into the financial services industry at about 18 years old. I started working at a law firm and an insurance company, and later got deeper into wealth management at Morgan Stanley, and was on the fixed income trading floor at State Street Global Advisors in Boston. So when I was 20 years old, I got my first job in venture, and worked at a wonderful early stage venture capital firm called Plum Alley Investments for about 3 years. And just very recently, within the past quarter or two, started my own company, and was approached by my co-founder, really excited about what he was building, and decided to go full throttle, and take the plunge to be a founder myself. So a new journey for my own entrepreneurial journey, but very excited to be moving out to Los Angeles whenever COVID decides to settle down there, and work on raising some money for my startup.
Good luck and congratulations on your startup. So, before we come down to ReVibe, so at Plum, I believe you've looked at close to 20 or 20 plus deals, right?
And
And
and that was after whittling down from about 5,000 companies to proceed with those 15 investments. So over my 3 years, I deployed $20 million. Each of those deals was, in average was a $10 million Series A was sort of our sweet spot. And we were focused on areas of deep technology and frontier healthcare. So there was two main verticals that we were deploying capital towards, both enterprise, all real B2B companies. And the unique part about Plum Alley, which was, really what my passion was that drove me there, was that all of our investments had to have at least one female founder with equal equity representation on the cap table. So I worked not only in these, crazy groundbreaking early stage companies, but ones that were led by, really gender balanced teams, which we found was kind of our recipe for success. Many of those deals have now gone on to raise Series B, Series C. So it's exciting to watch those founders flourish as well.
so, apart from the commonalities of having female founders, which is very amazing and excellent, we need more females on the board. But what was the commonality when it came down to founders DNA? What was the secret sauce, after selecting 20 from those 5,000? What common traits all of them shared, all three of them?
So one thing that I found, besides your typical grit and resiliency and everything that's kind of inherent, that's a must-have. What was unique across these 15 deals for me was that every founder was not only committed to something from a very personal level, and this was not, something that they kind of picked up overnight, but it was truly a passion project, something they'd been working on for a decade, and really just kind of there was no way that they would quit. That was sort of one thing that I found. And the reason being is that every single one of these companies was in a highly regulated industry. They were not trying to build something that already exists a little better. They were trying to break the rules, break down barriers, and build a better future. In doing so, they were growing bone from stem cells or detecting things like air quality or water quality or natural disasters. And they were doing things that no one had ever even thought of before. So what I found in terms of the creativity and true drive was that every single one of these founders were not going to look at their VC investors or the government bodies that they dealt with and just nod their head and say, okay, we will do whatever you tell us. It was exactly the opposite. They were the ones that were creating new laws, creating new beginnings, and opened industries. It really were market makers. So I'd say, a typical founder DNA, there's plenty of people that start in businesses that are kind of, or markets that are already set. But the founders that I really felt that I wanted to double down on at Plum Alley were ones that did not follow the rules. And they made new markets, new businesses, new companies, new customer sets, and were very successful at it.
Interesting. Interesting. Coming down to ReVibe, sitting on the other side of the table, how's the journey going so far?
What I've really loved is that there's this reciprocity between co-founders. And my partner and I have such a good balance in our relationship. We record all of our Zoom meetings with investors and we give each other feedback right away. We are so cautiously optimistic that there's this, camaraderie and excitement every time, every day, every time we have a new discovery or we find a data point that's highly compelling. What's been most exciting to me was just that, I felt almost that I did not have as much, control, right? As an investor, I was writing a check, I was giving advice, I was helping, I would be in meetings, but I wasn't driving the bus. And now getting to build my own company culture and create a business around what our passion and solving a personal pain point for a lot of our friends, doing that has just been liberating. And it's so exciting having to, sort of operate in that same capacity, which is, I don't care what my competitors are doing. I'm going to build an answer to this question and a solution to this problem, and it's going to be awesome. So it's freeing in many ways. Yet it is humbling because you realize, hey, I'm on the other side of the bench. I get to see all these deals. I get to say no 99% of the time.
True.
And you realize what you look for in a pitch and the things that I heard and the triggers that made me say, oh, wow, that's a founder I want to back. But creating the pitch deck and being that person is a completely different challenge. So I sort of had to check myself and say, okay, I know what I like to see, but how do I build that? So now we're sort of at the beginning of this journey. Luckily I've built an incredible network over the past couple of years in this business, but having to, do everything from scratch is a
It,
huge
it,
undertaking, but an
yeah.
exciting one.
No, it can be challenging, but it comes with its own perks, and that's what keeps on driving. Last question. Unfortunate times because of COVID, and the whole world is primarily going through a learning curve, right? From managing
Mm-hmm.
remote teams to raising funding over Zoom to customers, early adopters, features, and as well as making sure that the mental health of the team stays intact. So, how are you dealing with all of this, and what practices are you using within the team? And just add on to it, sorry, would you want to keep the team remote going forward, or you would want to go back to the office?
Yeah, so you brought up a number of interesting points there, and I think COVID, remote work is one of the, minute consequences of this. The reason being because, in any relationship, communication is king. VCs and founders travel a lot. Our business is completely about having this kind of eye to eye and ability to have that trust. So I think for us, remote work was never a big issue, even when I was at Plum Alley, for example, and, the CEO was on the, and whatever it was, we still had our investment committee. So I think, Slack with their 16 billion market cap and Airtable's got a $4 billion valuation now. I think there's a lot of tools that enable us to work remotely. And, for some people, it's actually been liberating. For others, I know people with kids at home and a lot of other, nuances of living in the home while you're working does create, negative cascading consequences with mental health. Mental health is something that, both founders and investors do highly prioritize, I would hope. I've seen, either side of the spectrum in this scenario, but I think now people are becoming more in tune, whereas they were acutely aware of the problem. I've seen in my discussion groups and my communities that it's becoming more and increasingly important. So I think for us as a company, we are probably going to have to raise about $500 million over the next 5 years, probably hire, at least 100 people in our workforce over the next, handful. So for us, going out to LA ourselves, I think my co-founder and I are signing a lease together where, the office will be our home. And that's, sort of how we're going to be scrappy and not have to pay for office space in the first place. But time will really tell in terms of what we believe will be the proper culture for ReVibe. I think, collaboration is also something that we will have as something that's highly important. But I've talked to a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning companies and engineers who say, their team is more productive working at home. So I think we'll have to be flexible and agile as we conquer this new journey and new beginning. And likely what I predict is for the next, 12 to 18 months, we'll probably be work from home. And then likely after that, we'll develop our strategies for, becoming completely digital. And then post that engagement, we'll set up an office space in LA.
Nice, nice. Hayley, all the best with ReVibe, and hopefully we'll keep on hearing amazing news from ReVibe and you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.